Hello and welcome to The View from the EBRD. My name is Stefanie Linhardt, Europe Editor at The Banker, and I'm here with Oleksandr Danylyuk, the Finance Minister of Ukraine. Now, Minister, hello, thank you very much for coming. You have only started office about a month ago. Now tell me, everyone's interested, are you planning on carrying on with the reforms from the previous Finance Minister, Jaresko?
Yes, of course. And although I joined office only literally a month ago, but I was also involved in formulating the policies for quite a while. So whatever is my predecessor she was doing is actually I was supporting this on behalf of the when I was working in presidential administration, I was providing my support to this. So I fully share it. And of course, when I joined the government and assumed the position, I will make sure that there is a continuity, but also, you know, there will be some additional new reforms that will be launched, which is important for my agenda, and among those are introducing the midterm budgeting this year. We want to do it this year. We want to start the institutional reform of the tax service this year. Is absolutely crucial. So this is the areas that we will be focusing. Of course, there was an expectation with the new government in place that we will get back in negotiations with IMF, and we'll get the tranche, which is we've been waiting since almost a year, since September, really. So this is currently negotiations are in place. Mission is in Kyiv. I met with the mission before I came here to London just to meet with them, to kick off the process, and I'm very optimistic about getting the agreement with IMF within the near future.
Okay, very good. Well, some things that were also mentioned in the EBRD country event, so you've had your own event here today for an hour, was the need to tackle corruption, the need to improve the judicial system.
Yes.
What are your targets there?
Well, if talking about judicial reform, it's the most needed and the most expected reform, but also the most difficult reform, because for that we need to change constitution. There was a quite lengthy process in developing the model and the concept for this reform, and the Venetian Commission was involved. Eventually we have the model. There is a law that needs to be adopted by the parliament, but not simple majority of votes, but actually by constitutional majority, which is 300 votes, which is very difficult to do. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen very soon, and that will start the reform of judicial system, which is absolutely you cannot overestimate the importance of this reform. On corruption, it's slightly easier, right? Because actually, you know, it will be absolutely incorrect to say that we need to change constitution in order to fight with corruption. It's actually it could be done, and it is done on every level. You know, we're building new institutional structures, which are independent institutions that are not linked to the previous institutions that were supposed to fight with corruption but didn't. I'm talking about National Anti-Corruption Bureau, which is built with help of our international partners, with professional technical assistance, training people, hiring right people, providing them support with investigations. So this is National Anti-Corruption Bureau. It's National Agency for Prevention of Corruption. Investigation Bureau is focusing on investigating. Prevention is actually focusing on identifying the risk for corruption, including monitoring the party financing, which is actually in the very root of corruption. So this is institutional changes. Also, what we as a government do is corruption is always it's somewhere hidden. Yeah, it's either hidden in in some areas when there is no market. When there is no market, there is always a room for administrative involvement, and that creates room for corruption, and you just cannot avoid it's going to happen one way or another, small or big, it's going to happen. So actually the way, and this is the policy, and my policy, the policy of the government is actually to move as much as possible away from the government hands, make a smaller government, rely on private sector, and actually create a competition. So the smaller role of the government, the less room for corruption. This is, I think, is also important. Another element is actually getting new people to the government. For that, we need to offer them uncompetitive compensation. This is a very hot issue because the level of salaries is actually, it's like a charity now. People come to a charitable organization, which is government, but government should not be a charitable organization. We need people who can, who can work in the government, be committed, right, and changing. We need to attract the best. Based on the challenges we're facing, we need best people, right? And for that, we need to pay, normal salaries. So this is something which we're also tackling. We're discussing with European Commission how to actually do it. They could provide some bridge financing, but eventually in 1 or 2 years, we need to be self-sustainable. We need to have small government with professional people, because reform will not stop in 2 years. Again, giving the...
What's the plan going on in terms of reforms?
Well, some reforms, for example, healthcare reform, if you do it very, very quickly, it would still take 2 or 3 years, right? This reform hasn't started yet, and it is waited. People waiting for this. The education reform is also not you don't do it overnight. So it depending on the areas. What we now where we're progressing is energy reform. After we raised a tariff to market level just 2 weeks ago, we actually completed the last prerequisite for introducing the market, unrestricted market in gas sector. So we expect new investments to gas production, distribution, pretty much any area that can bring return to the investors.
You mentioned market, introducing a market. That's something that was mentioned as well in the investment outlook. People were asking for more privatization.
Yes.
So in which areas do you see the most possibility to drive privatization first?
Well, look, this is my favorite topic because I believe in privatization, because I believe in a smaller role of state. I'm a libertarian myself, and I don't believe in effective management of state enterprises, at least at this stage of our development, right? So I'm in favor of privatization. I'm a big supporter of it. I also know the landscape. The landscape looks ridiculous. We have thousands of companies, 3,000 companies which state-owned. Some of them in reality just don't exist. It's just not existing company but still in the books we need to account for them. There are some directors. It's crazy. Really, there are like 50 major companies that are working, and I'm confident that majority of them, there are some strategic, for some reason we cannot privatize, but others will be more effective in private hands. So we need to focus on those limited number of companies who actually have value, and we need to prioritize their kind of offering to private investors. And when this happens, by doing this, we will draw attention of investors to the country, because the part of this process you need not just to sell the company, you need to tell about the country, about the opportunities, about the markets this company operates, and that will be the trigger for new investors coming in. So a very important process. This year there are plans to privatize several large enterprises, and the first to start will be Odessa seaport plant, which is, there is some timeline, and we are within this timeline. What is absolutely crucial is to make sure that it is done in transparent manner. So all steps needs to be done in proper way. It's a showcase. Yeah, if I can call it showcase.
So everyone will be watching that in terms of privatization.
Well, I think what is important is not to look for one company, it's actually look what the government is doing on reforms. But who is interested in privatization, they should look on HPZ. Who is interested in opportunities in healthcare sector should actually look at what we're doing in healthcare sector. And in energy sector, we're changing the electricity market. Yeah, it had a very strange structure. Now we're moving to a European structure with very clear direct contract between the customers and producers. Yeah, so this is again enormous opportunity for those who know how it operates in Europe. Now it will be operating in Ukraine in the same way, with the same opportunities. So it's up to investors what they want to watch, really.
And it's up to you what you want to reform.
And we're making, I'll just explain you what we want to reform, and investors need to know what we want to reform, what we plan to reform.
Minister Danylyuk, thank you very much.
Thank you.